from your vantage point, the aggrieved families here and the aggrieved quote-unquote victims have no recourse from what you see right now
From
on the
what
basis of what we have.
it depends on the circumstances in which those photographs were taken. If those photographs were taken consensually, boyfriend to girlfriend, I have not seen the photographs. I have no desire to see
Neither
the
have I. I have
photographs.
not gone to see them either.
If there were consensual pictures that were taken within the ambits of the decision in whole, it would seem to me that there is some civil redress. So that if it were that one of them took pictures for their boyfriend and their boy in areas in which that case has found was within the bounds of confidentiality, and those pictures, and that was violated, and it was really, there would be civil redress because the courts have already pronounced on that. If there were pictures of minors, and I understand there may be some pictures of minors, there would be redress because that is a crime under the Children's Act. All right. If, however, if there were pictures that were hacked into, and the person's account was hacked into, well, clearly there would be some kind of civil liability that you can try to bring in some sort of thought of, perhaps because they are now massaging so much whether there has been a trespass. It hasn't been explored, but what we're doing is using what we would call common law principles to cover, to do what the judge did in the whole case and massage it to cover liability.
If you were asked to use your experience and give some advice or give some recommendations in the coming to the floor of the cyber legislation as it relates to this new advent or this recent advent of this sort of exposure, what would you suggest be contemplated and or included in the cybercrime legislation?
Cybercrime has already been drafted, and they seem to be very broad in saying that once you disseminate photographs that expose privacy without consent,
Yes.
that is going to be that is going to attract criminal liability. For my own part, I would want to keep criminal liability in a situation where the original pictures or the original photographs were not taken with consent, and I would want to force people before you take a photograph to think carefully where that photograph is likely to go. So that if it is that you find a situation where a photograph is taken, you don't know it's taken, and it's disseminated without your consent, by all means, send the person to jail for life. But if you decided that you wanted to take pictures with somebody, you need to think.
The equivalent of a prenuptial may be a discussion here?
No,
The equivalent in the sense that I'm about to do something, I'm about to tell you, sign this, you're going to use these pictures for nothing else.
I'm about to say that if you feel you don't want your pictures all over the internet, don't take them.
I hear that.
And I know that may not be a popular view, but I think that it's like taking something and it's taking money and handing it to a person and say, hold it for me.
And I understand even when you put me up against the wall with that, and I didn't answer, incidentally. and I understand that. But you yourself, as you said, and we know you are the parent of young girls.
Yeah.
There is peer pressure. There are a lot of things happening, and there's just also that careless youth that will go about doing this. Are we saying that predators can in fact play on that, as you said? That my last girlfriend did it. Oh, come on, the other girl's doing it. That they can play on this with impunity. That's what you're saying.
I'm not saying that.
I'm asking.
No. I'm not saying with impunity, because in drafting laws, one can always decide when consent has been overridden, when real consent has been overridden or abused, and there would be circumstances in which your real consent has been overridden or abused. But I'm saying that persons must be responsible for what they do. If I hand you a naked picture of me and you choose to put it up
Understood.
on the internet, I must accept the responsibility.
But if you're keeping a naked picture of yourself in your, let's say, Facebook account, and that account was hacked into, and someone takes that, then that is an entirely
That's
different
my
thing.
view.
With redress.
Yes. And
All
I
right.
say there should be both civil and criminal redress for that.
Well, I think there's a lot to be learned from this happening. But as you said, as a parent of young girls and as an attorney with all the experience you have, the best advice at this stage is don't do it.
Don't do it.
If it comes to you, regardless of what the peer pressure, don't do it.
Whatever you feel would be your maximum degree of exposure that you are prepared to have publicly displayed, that must be your line in terms of what you do. so that we would all have a different line as to what we feel comfortable with being displayed. Some people wear very skimpy bikinis, some people feel they can just cover whatever. But you would have your line in terms of what you feel, this is what I am comfortable with being
There's a
displayed.
thing that you attorneys do. You throw yourself at the mercy of the court at different times. I'm going to throw myself at your mercy here only because I want to put this in place. I don't want to leave this morning. I feel a little uneasy leaving this morning with young men feeling they can in fact go about doing this, and except where there is theft, i.e. breaking into computers. They can go ahead and do this. Is there anything can be done? Yes, I know you already covered this territory, but as I said, I'm coming back just to get this part here. So that our listeners don't leave, young men don't leave, older men too, men, period, anybody, leave with the impression that they can do this and just get away with it.
I think there are ways that if you would attempt to do it, that the common law could be stretched to cover it. But as I said, there are presently no statutory provisions that will give you assistance.
But as you said, what is a laying in wait is the legislation, and the legislation does, in fact, though you would prefer it to keep it compartmentalized, the legislation does cover it.
It is very broad, and it is going to cover it, not just from what I'm seeing in the way it's presently drafted, it could be interpreted to be extremely broad in its coverage.
Ambiguity is always there for a reason. If I can't get to it specifically, let me just paint the brush and if you fall under
let the
there,
judges decide.
Indeed, right? Attorney Donna Prowell, very, very kind of you. It's good to see you, first of all. Look wonderful on a Sunday morning. And thank you so much for taking the time to come in. You have a wonderful day. You're listening to Brunch on 107.7. Attorney Donna Prowell, my guest. Coming up next is going to be the commander, formerly of the Coast Guard. He was also the head of the NOC. We are talking about national security. We're talking about Homeland Security. I told you it's a security morning. That and more coming up as we continue inside Brunch.